great to be here. Knocking things over. We're getting rowdy now. I appreciate that kind introduction, Nancy. I also appreciate Nancy not making me speak after Cecil Roberts. Those of you who have not heard Cecil Roberts will understand that joke later. This is an amazing event, and it's one of the thousands of events going on across the country. And all kinds of folks in all kinds of communities, union, not union, community groups, are doing something on this very, very special day. My union, the communication workers, are doing things in the workplace where 500,000 CFA members at work are wearing these red bandanas that say, stand up for good jobs and strong communities. They're wearing them at work. Now, my CFA folks wondered why I wasn't totally decked out in my CFA red. It just seemed a little appropriate to combine the CFA red with a little Butler Bulldog blue on that day. The union guy, always for the underdog. So this is a very, very amazing day and event, and it really goes back to the sad event in 1968 when Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I think it's worth a minute taking us all back to 1968 for a minute. 1968 was a time in the world where around the world, for reasons that people didn't always understand, connected to each other, people were rising up in Czechoslovakia, in Paris, in Mexico City. People were rising up against unfair treatment, against injustice. Across America, people have been rising up. There was a lot of different movements. There was a movement that was fighting for civil rights. There were movements that were fighting for workers' rights, particularly the right of public sector workers to be able to bargain and organize like private sector workers did. There were movements for peace, for justice. What Martin Luther King, who had been an incredible leader in the civil rights movement for, at that point, 15 years or more, was doing in 1968 was attempting to pull all these different movements together. The fight for civil rights, the fight for workers' rights, the fight for peace and justice in 1968, to put that into one big fight where people are united. That's what was going on in 1968. There's some people who believe that was one of the reasons why he was killed. Because folks in power don't have a strategy in 1968 or in 2011 of divide and conquer. Our strategy has to be unite to win. That's the answer to divide and conquer. So in 2011, we find ourselves at a time where all around the world, people are rising up against injustice. In Egypt, and in Libya, and in Tunisia, and in Wisconsin, and in Indiana, and in Ohio. So today is a really good day to think about what are we doing to unite all these fights? What are we doing to unite across all kinds of boundaries to make sure every union, not just your union, not just your union as part of this club or that club, but every union is working together. Every organization that fights for workers is speaking with one voice. But that's not enough. It is not enough for every union to be together and 100% united. Because we're not a majority in this country. Right? Maybe we should be, but we're not. We're 12% of this country, of the workforce. We need to have a majority movement in America. That's not just unions. That's also groups in our community. That's groups in Indiana like Jobs with Justice, like the NAACP, like the Sierra Club, like all kinds of organizations that exist only in your town that nobody else has ever heard of. We need to reach out to them. We need to build a majority movement that's fighting for good jobs and strong communities.
Right.
A majority movement. That's what Martin Luther King was trying to do in 1968. Build that kind of majority movement. If you want to honor that legacy, that's what we got to be doing in 2011. Fighting for good jobs and strong communities. That's what unites us all. For most of America's history, Indiana was a place that people moved to find good jobs and strong communities. It was a place where there was decent places to work, where you have a middle-class standard of living, where strong communities. Why did that happen? It wasn't by accident. We had policies in this country. Our elected officials had policies that were designed to create a middle class. We took a nation that was mostly illiterate and said, you know what? We're going to have public education for everybody. Universal public education for free. That was a radical idea. People thought we couldn't do it. We did that in this country. We built up a system of public education for everybody. We decided we're going to have the right for people to organize unions. First in the private sector, and then years later in the public sector. That's a free and democratic right. A lot of the world didn't have that right. We decided that we're going to do things to make sure there's decent services, and that our water is clean, and that our streets get plowed, and that our fires get put out. You know, this idea of privatizing stuff, it's not new. It's old. It's ancient. They used to have privatized everything when this country first happened. In New York City, after the third cholera epidemic, they decided private water companies wasn't such a good idea. Maybe the government should make sure that the water is clean and not dangerous to people, right? That's what this is about. And so, if we are going to have that kind of Indiana, if we're going to have that kind of America, we need to unite and build a majority movement that stands up for good jobs,